A night like this, a tailoring madam threw her apprentice into the rain and locked the gate. She believed the girl would disappear forever. She was wrong. Let me tell you a story. The girl's name was Amara Noy, and at 15, she already understood hunger, silence, and endurance more than most adults ever would. She arrived at Ajigana Edge, a crowded stretch just outside the city, with a small bag and a letter from a distant uncle. Her mother had died quietly, the way poor women often do, leaving behind a sewing machine that no longer worked and dreams that had no one to protect them. The letter was addressed to Madame Sophia Baligan, a respected tailor whose shop was always busy and whose name carried weight in the area. People said learning under her was a blessing. What they didn't say was what it cost. From the first day, Amara learned her place. She swept before sunrise, washed fabrics until her fingers cracked, and stood for hours watching dresses come alive under other people's hands. Food was a privilege. Rest was rare. Mistakes were punished loudly. Madame Sophia spoke with sweetness to customers and bitterness to apprentices. Her words cut without raising her voice. Amara never cried where anyone could see. At night, when the shop was quiet and the other girls slept on thin mats, she practiced secretly. She remembered how her mother once showed her how to follow a seam with patience, how to let fabric guide the hand instead of fighting it. Even with scraps, Amara's stitches were neat. Too neat. Madame Sophia noticed. She did not praise her skill. She saw it as a threat. She began giving Amara the hardest work, then blaming her when things went wrong. If a thread snapped, it was Amara. If scissors went missing, it was a matter of Mora. If a customer frowned, Amara paid for it. The other apprentices learned a dangerous lesson: silence was survival. One evening, a richly embroidered gown vanished. It belonged to a client whose name carried influence. Madame Sophia's shop buzzed with panic. No questions were asked. No search was done. Madame Sophia pointed at Amara. The accusation was loud, final, and public. Amara knelt, confused, shaking her head, begging to be allowed to speak. Her words dissolved in the air. By nightfall, the rain began. It came suddenly, heavy and unforgiving. Madame Sophia dragged Amara outside, ignoring the way the girl's feet slipped on wet ground. She threw Amara's bag after her, its contents scattering into the mud. The gate slammed shut. The lock clicked. Rain soaked Amara to the bone as thunder split the sky. Customers passed without looking. Cars splashed dirty water onto her legs. She stood there for a long time. When her strength finally failed, she sank to her knees and pressed her forehead to the ground. Inside the shop, warmth and light continued as if nothing had happened. That night, Amara disappeared. What Madame Sophia did not know was that someone had seen the whole thing. And that night, fate quietly changed direction. Amara woke up coughing, wrapped in a thin wrapper that smelled of smoke and onions. Her head throbbed. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she saw the face of Mama Ronk, a roadside food seller whose stall sat not far from the tailoring shop. The woman's eyes were tired but kind, the kind that had seen hardship and chosen softness anyway. Mama Ronk did not ask many questions. She gave Amara food, dry clothes, and a corner to sleep in. That alone felt like a miracle. Days turned into weeks. AM and Nat helped at the store, washing plates, serving customers, learning how survival worked outside locked gates. At night, she told Mama Ronk everything. The cruelty. The accusations. The rain. Mama Ronk listened quietly. One evening, she asked Amara to sew a torn blouse for a customer. Amara's hands trembled as she walked, but the result was clean, precise, beautiful. Word spread. A community center nearby offered vocational classes. Mama Ronk insisted Amara attend. There, for the first time, Amara learned without fear. Her designs were bold, inspired by stories, by pain, by resilience. Years passed. Amara grew into herself. Her name began to circulate softly at first, then louder. A visiting fashion consultant noticed her work during a local exhibition and offered mentorship. Doors opened that Amara never imagined touching. She named her brand ARA Threads, because every stitch carried a story. She hired young girls like herself. She paid them. She fed them. She taught them their worth alongside their craft. In another part of the city, Madame Sophia's shop still stood, but the shine had dulled. Customers complained quietly. Apprentices left when they could. One day, an announcement spread across fashion circles. A major cultural fashion showcase was coming to Ilorin Crest Hall. Designers from across the region were invited. Both names appeared on the list. When Madame Sophia walked into the hall and saw the banner across from her stand, her breath caught. Era Threads. Founder, Amara Noy. Their eyes met. Years of memory collided in a single moment. Madame Sophia laughed nervously, dismissing it as coincidence. But unease followed her like a shadow. Later that day, a panel discussion was announced. The topic, the hidden cost of apprenticeship abuse. Amara was one of the speakers. She did not raise her voice. She did not point fingers. She told a story. Of a rainy night. Of a locked gate. Of silence that protected cruelty. The hall was still. Madame Sophia felt something tighten in her chest. Because Amara had not finished speaking yet. And the truth was only beginning to surface. The hall remained silent long after Amara stopped speaking. People shifted in their seats, uncomfortable, because the story she told did not sound like fiction. It sounded like something they had seen, ignored, or survived. Madame Sophia sat stiffly, her hands clenched in her lap, her eyes fixed forward as though movement itself might expose her. Amara stepped down from the stage without drama. She returned to her seat, her heart steady. She had not come to fight. She had come to tell the truth. But truth has a way of fighting on its own. That evening, whispers spread through the exhibition hall. Designers spoke in low tones. Apprentices working behind the scenes looked at one another differently, as if a long-held secret had finally been given permission to breathe. An elderly woman approached Amara quietly. She introduced herself as a former apprentice of Madame Sophia, from many years ago. Her hands trembled as she spoke. She said she remembered the rainy night. She said she remembered the missing dress too. According to her, the dress had never been stolen. Madame Sophia had hidden it, planning to sell it privately after accusing an apprentice and dismissing her without pay. It was not the first time. It was simply the first time someone survived long enough to return. By morning, the whispers had turned into conversations. By afternoon, they became testimonies. 2 more former apprentices came forward. Then another. Stories overlapped. Patterns formed. Names, dates, places, punishments. Each account chipped away at the image Madame Sophia had carefully built over decades. An investigative journalist attending the exhibition requested interviews. Officials from the local Tailoring Association took notice. What had started as a panel discussion became an inquiry. Madame Sophia tried to laugh it off at first. She called it jealousy. She called it lies. But lies crumble when faced with numbers. Records were checked. Contracts reviewed. Complaints that had once been dismissed resurfaced. Parents came forward, angry and grieving, demanding answers for daughters who had returned home broken or never returned at all. Within weeks, Madame Sophia's shop was sealed pending investigation. The woman who once locked gates now stood outside them, begging to be heard. One evening, as the sun dipped low and traffic hummed in the distance, Madame Sophia came to air her threats. She stood at the entrance for a long time before stepping inside. The space was bright. Laughter floated from the back where young girls worked confidently at their machines. No fear. No shouting. Amora noticed her immediately. They stood facing each other, the years between them heavy and undeniable. Madame Sophia's voice was smaller now. She apologized. She spoke of regret, of pressure, of how cruelty had become normal because no one ever stopped her. Amora listened without interruption. When Madame Sophia finished, Amora spoke softly. She said forgiveness was possible, but silence was not. She said accountability was not revenge. She said every girl who had been thrown away deserved to be seen. Madame Sophia nodded, tears falling freely. She left without asking for anything else. Months later, the case concluded. Madame Sophia lost her license permanently. Her shop never reopened. She faded from public view, a cautionary tale whispered among traders and teachers alike. Amora did not celebrate. Instead, she expanded. She opened a training center attached to her brand, free for girls who had been abused or abandoned during apprenticeship. She named it the Rain House, a place where storms did not end stories, they began them. On the wall at the entrance hung a simple sentence. Some people throw you into the rain to destroy you. They forget that rain also makes things grow. Years later, when Amora was asked during an interview what drove her success, she did not mention talent or luck. She spoke of a locked gate. Of a woman who chose cruelty. And of another who chose kindness. And somewhere, in the quiet corners of the city, girls who heard her story began to believe that survival was not the end of their journey. Sometimes, it was only the beginning. Because karma does not always come with noise. Sometimes, it comes with truth. If this story touched you, please subscribe for more powerful African stories. Share your thoughts in the comments, someone out there needs to read them.